Our first day here in Bolivia, we went over to the brick factory, and when you arrive, the first thing you see is just little itty-bitty brick shacks covered in tin and whatever else they can find. There's no doors. Most of the floors inside the houses are dirt, and it's where the brick factory is. It's a little village, and people actually live here. When the first thing we get off and we notice is all the hospitality of everyone there. They bring out every single chair that they could find for us to sit on for maybe 5 minutes before they give us a tour. And now they make by themselves about 10,000 bricks a day, over 10,000 bricks a day. They have to dig up their own clay 30 feet deep in the ground by hand. It's like a big old tunnel to the ground, and they have to mixture all the clay perfectly with dirt and water so it's not too soft or too firm. It sticks well together, and our first thought was, hey, we want to make some bricks. So the guy's like, alright, so he mixes up all this stuff, and we didn't know he'd have to, and it took him about 15 minutes to mix wheelbarrow size for us, and he couldn't mix any less, so we all had to do that. So we go over and we're making bricks. He shows us how, first of all, and his bricks are all perfect. The one thing about the bricks is they have to be perfect for you to use them. So we started making bricks, and we thought it would be kind of easy, but it's actually extremely hard. None of us made any bricks good enough to be used, so what we were told afterwards is after they dry, he'll have to go back and destroy them himself. So we just made all those bricks and all that extra work for him. He didn't even complain or anything. He just laughed and made jokes with us. After that, we went back to talk about what it's like to live there, and they moved all the chairs into this little room so we wouldn't be cold. And they brought out a huge bag of bread, pretty much, and it's all they could find. They have to scavenge for everything for us, and they brought out everything they could. They had teacups, they had tea, they boiled water just for us, and everything you see down there just makes you think that we have such good everything. Like, we should be respectful for what we have, because there's people down here that don't have anything. And it just makes you think.
We did a lot of different things at the daycare, like working-wise. We did dishes. We built a playhouse out of bottles filled with sand, and we worked a lot in the classrooms. We did I did a lot of dishes with I guess a whole bunch of people, and the ladies there, the cooks, they did they made a lot of food, so we were constantly doing dishes. We got there and all the kids just kind of swarmed you, and it was kind of frustrating at first, because they'd all sit there and try to talk to you, but then you didn't know what they were saying, and you just kind of look at them, and then you'd tell them that you don't speak Spanish, and they look at you like you were crazy. All the kids were really sweet, and they were the happiest kids. You'd never know that they didn't have a single thing. You could tell, though, but the love and the hope in their eyes whenever you're hugging them was just the best. It just made you feel so good.
Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow.
We got to the daycare center the first day to work, and they had a site that had a perimeter of concrete and about 3 rows of bricks, and it had grass growing in it and stuff. And the workers that were hired came in to start clearing that, and we started helping them do that. So we got the sand, and then we leveled that sand in that perimeter. and then we laid bricks on top of the whole perimeter, and this may have been like a 25 or 50-foot area. And we got too much sand in, so we had it all tamped down, and the guy was screeding it off to make it level. We had to haul sand back out. So every once in a while we did that, you know, did redundant things, but that's not bad. I mean, that's normal construction. We would help them mix mud in a dry form. We would haul sand for them. Didn't do too much skilled labor, but I feel like we got a fair amount of work done. And that was one project on the corner of the daycare complex, so it will kind of finish that corner, and they're going to use that area for our conference area, I believe. The second project was on the other end of the complex, and they were building a recycle playhouse. They were building the walls out of liter bottles, many liter bottles, filled with sand. So many people were filling those bottles with sand and tamping them down and making them as dense as possible before they could go into the wall. The bricklayers put up brick corners on that, and they put in windows that were the right height for children and a small door that's for children. And but the majority of the wall space were these bottles filled with sand. These bottles, Coke bottles, any kind of 2-liter and 2.5-liter bottle.
These kids just really love hugs. It's interesting to me to see that hugs mean the world to these kids. You know, when we're at home and our family tries to hug us, we just kind of roll our eyes like, really? Like, we just saw each other. But these kids, like, hugs mean so much more to them. It's basically like they're giving 100% of themselves to you, and you're accepting them. Like, all they want to do is hug because they don't get that at home. You know, maybe their parents, like, don't have enough time, or they don't know how to show love. So whenever these kids get to the daycare and they see that they have that, they take advantage of it. They love to hug you. And these kids, they have literally nothing. All of them live in like one-room houses with maybe like a bed, and they share it with probably 7 people. And they're the happiest kids I've ever seen in my entire life. It doesn't matter if you give them a stick to play with. That stick can be a million different things, and they are so happy with it, and they're so content. And it's just amazing to me that people are still like that. You don't see that every day in the U.S. And when they see you, like, especially when they're running to you for a hug, their faces light up, and they're so happy, and they're just ecstatic just to see you. Like, you can see the happiness on their faces. And when we first got down here, we were all kind of worried about like, how are we going to communicate with them? How are they going to understand us? Because none of us can speak Spanish. It doesn't even matter, because, you know, a laugh is the same in Spanish as it is in English. A smile is the same. Like, emotions are the same. I didn't need to be able to talk Spanish to be able to relate to my kid. And I thought that was really special. Everything means so much more to them, and you're not going to understand it until you see the pictures, until you see the videos of these kids just lighting up when they meet you and when you play with them. Playing with them takes maybe 5 minutes, and you made that kid's day. You don't see that back at home. It's just, like, amazing to see that so little can mean so much to them. And we don't realize how much we mean to those kids.
Just a face in the city, and just a tear on a crowded street. But you were 1 in a million, and you belong to me.
There was 2 moms. They were both sisters. They each had 5 kids in between each other. One of them had 2, the other one had 3. The dads left them after they had their children. and all the kids have different dads. They all share one room together, and in that room there's a stove, a fridge, and 3 beds. The beds weren't that comfortable at all when we sat on them. They were practically wood. When we walked in the room, the first thing I noticed was it was infested with bugs. I mean, they didn't have a window. There was no protection from the outside. There was nothing. And there was just flies and gnats and mosquitoes everywhere. The stove was dirty, the refrigerator was dirty, everything was just filthy. We gave them a bag of stuff, like toys and clothes and all that, and to me it didn't seem like much because the toys were like, they weren't really toys, they were just kind of like little trinkets. But to her, the bag meant the world. I don't know, it was weird how just that little much can mean so much to her, and she just started tearing up and crying, and it meant a lot to her, I guess. I know before I left the States, I was treating my grandma like crap, and she tried to do everything she could for me on this trip and help me out and everything, and one day I snapped at her and told her I didn't want her help and all that, and now I just feel terrible for it. And I know when I go back to the States, I'm just going to give her a hug and tell her I'm sorry, tell her I love her, because that's what means the most is family.
We had the opportunity to stay a couple nights, a couple days at a host family's house, and it was an amazing experience that I will never forget. It was really cool. When I first got there, I was kind of feeling down. Me and Chandler are here, both speak very little Spanish, and our host mom speaks no English, and it was like, man, this is gonna suck. Being here, where no translator, no nothing. How are we gonna get food? How are we gonna get water? How are we gonna? I don't know. I was just feeling down. And then one thing that I realized after doing this was love doesn't need translation. You see somebody smiling, you see somebody being happy, and even if you don't speak the same language, happiness is contagious and love is contagious. And it was so amazing that I just did a complete 180, and I could stay there for forever. I mean, I could stay there, and it just made me feel happy. It was an awesome experience. And another thing is that they gave us everything they had, no matter what. I thought we were coming down here to, help them out, help with the daycare, help them build a little hot bottle house, but they served us more than we served them, and that was such an amazing experience to know that it's more of a mutual relationship between us and the people here. And I know that Chandler and I, being there, I know that they don't eat as well as we ate for those 2 nights every night. They went out and spent more money than they had getting food that they didn't need to make us happy. And that was just the amount of love that we were shown this week is incredible, and helped me realize that my attitude is contagious, and the way I treat others and the way others treat me is something that people look at more than I think they do.
While we were in Bolivia, we went to 2 different churches and 1 youth group. We arrived in Bolivia on Saturday, and then that night we went to Príncipe de Paz for youth group. When we were showing up at the church, no one really was in the mood for youth group because everyone was so tired. We were walking up the stairs and we could hear people singing. When we stepped in the room, there was a lot of people who just stared, but they were all smiling at us. They kept singing while we joined in, and we found our seats. One of the songs we did was a handshaking one, and we walked around greeting others while still singing. That had lightened up the room quite a bit. We then sang Waves of Mercy after the other songs. After worship, there was a sermon given that a girl my age named Bernice translated for us. After the sermon, we played some games and got to know each other more and ate a couple snacks at the end. Principe de Paz youth group and our youth group have gotten along pretty well, although we couldn't all really speak to each other. The first church service on Sunday we went to was Principe de Paz. At that church we did the gathering song where we all shook hands, then opened up with a few other songs. Our Pleasant Valley group then went up and sang 3 different songs. It was amazing to see everyone's faces because even though they couldn't understand what we were singing, they really appreciated us going up there. At the second church service, I noticed a lot of the similarities. The Christians in Bolivia are so thankful that they have Sundays off to actually praise God and have family time. People in Bolivia actually want to go to church, where I feel like a lot of people in the U.S. feel like they think of it just as another day or feel like they have to go instead of wanting to. There are so many differences in the churches, but one humanity I saw or have noticed that connects us with the Bolivians would have to be that we are all worshiping the same God and have the same love for Him. We are all traveling on the same path towards understanding what God wants us to believe in or do.
The injustice in this world is crazy unfair. Went to a family, and she had 8 kids altogether and was living in a house about the size of most people's living room. She had 1 baby and 5 other kids. 3 was gone, or 4 other kids and 3 was gone. She had a sister that had leukemia, and she had to choose between giving her sister help for the treatment or feeding her children, and she chose giving her sister the money because she could either lose her family fast or lose her sister fast or lose her kids slowly. So with the $28 a month she made, she gave it all to her sister. She's getting ready to lose her kids' daycare privileges. The conditions of living, they're all pretty dirty. It's really small. The poverty level is nothing like you would ever see in America. But then there's the rich who have super nice things like the plaza, and the plaza is beautiful, and then there's the man just begging for any kind of money. And when it storms down here, there's muddy roads, nobody can go anywhere, the buses can't get anywhere, so if you don't or can't afford a car, you can't get anywhere to your job or anything. And I don't know why God has chosen to give us so much when we can choose between our wants. We don't even have to choose between our wants and needs, and they have to choose between their needs and their needs.
In the